DDG episode 243. My name is Dave, and I'm joined by Michael.
How is it going, Dave? We're back to Tuesday recording, trying to get back into a little bit of a rhythm. Obviously, if you're listening to this on the podcast feed, it's Thursday. But yeah, we're trying to get back to Tuesday rhythm. Feels weird. Feels good.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see how the rest of the evening goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just fake spring is here before real spring. So I don't know if you're getting this like 60-degree little surge and stuff like that down in Chicago, but
I got it on Friday, and it was followed by a snowstorm on Saturday.
I haven't got the snow again, but or like kind of like our weather report, getting near baseball season, so like it's gonna snow again.
Have they reported to spring training yet?
Yeah. Opening days like in 12 days, man. They're playing.
Okay, yeah.
They're playing in Tokyo right now. They're doing.
I have a poverty team, so like I just don't pay attention to baseball.
Yeah, I almost sent it to you. There's an article that says the White Sox have no nationally televised games this season.
Good for America. America needs a win, and if that win is in the form of not having to watch the White Sox, then good on them.
It'll be interesting to see, like, what baseball does. So I don't know how much you've been paying attention, but like I know you know who Shohei Ohtani is, just because in general. But he's in Fortnite, like physically himself.
He's the biggest star baseball's probably had since Jeter.
Yeah, and so to cross that kind of stuff over with what Ohtani's doing worldwide. Not just in the United States, but worldwide is kind of cool. Like, and baseball really, really needs that. And then he won a World Series and all that stuff. So I think that's helping. This is hopefully what baseball needs.
The World Series he won, he was pretty injured through it too. So we haven't even had really.
He pretty much won MVP doing only half of what he wants to do. So
yeah. So just the fact that he's already got his World Series win, he only played half of what he usually does, and he was banged up. Mm-hmm. And the Dodgers are spending a shit ton of money to uphold their team.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. And then my team's just, just asking people off the streets if they want to sign.
We pay the entire White Sox less than Ohtani makes in one game.
Jerry Reinsdorf's dream. I'm cracked up because the Sox a couple years ago signed someone for a 3-year, $85 million deal. And that was the biggest deal the White Sox ever made.
Yeah.
And it was just really $20 million a year is the biggest deal? And it's yes, it was. And they went nowhere. So, yeah.
All right. So we are Digital Days Gaming. We're a weekly podcast that records weeknights around 9 o'clock Eastern on twitch.tv/Digital Days Gaming or youtube.com/Digital Days Gaming. You can listen to the podcast on Thursdays or Fridays. We're going to try to get back to Thursdays, but Thursdays, 6 a.m. Eastern time on podcast services, Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, whatever those things are called. Those are all there. So if you're listening to us on any of those, welcome. Please consider subscribing. You can follow on Twitch. Following on Twitch is free. You can subscribe on Twitch. That costs $9. But we are a Twitch affiliate. But if you also link your Amazon accounts and your Twitch accounts, then you get Prime Gaming, and you can use that as a free subscription, which does, essentially give us $4, that you're already paying to Prime anyway. So that's up to you. It does not auto renew, so please consider checking that out. You can subscribe on YouTube, but that is free, and you can also listen on YouTube to the RSS, the podcast audio feed with the still image, or you can watch the replays if you missed the live show. If you are listening live, please consider making some comments or any of those things, as well as commenting on just the shows in general. We can try to see those. I've been seeing a little bit more activity around Spotify comments, and I got to figure out how to get into them on my phone and see them. But we're going to work on that. But I appreciate everyone's support, and everything else is linked in the show notes, or you can check out digitaldaysgaming.com. And we're going to kick it off with some news.
Yeah, we got a few different news stories. Some stuff that's kind of far-reaching for the latter half, but the first half we have some recent, some stuff that's actually going to happen soon. Because I think we talked about this last week. We're in a little bit of a lull because Nintendo's announcement is now 1 month away now.
Yeah, 2 weeks probably.
I think was it?
I thought it was April 2nd.
Oh, it was April 2nd. I thought it was April 20th. Something is happening April 20th. Oh, it's 420. I just always assume
and it's happening. Easter.
Is that when he's Dave? I'm not. I've not been good with Easter.
It's one of the days my store's closed. One of the 3 days my store's closed out of the year. So I don't know what else.
April 20th is the direct for the Switch 2.
On a Sunday?
Is it? The April 20th Nintendo Direct will be dedicated event for the Nintendo Switch 2. The event
I thought it was April 2nd.
I gotta tell you, the AI for Google is fucking terrible because it's telling me April 20th, but then it says time and date April 2nd.
Okay.
So what the hell, Google AI? April 2nd. So yeah, we are 2 weeks away. Like 3 weeks away.
Okay, so
Google AI has
it is
failed
April
me.
2nd.
Yes, but if you Google it,
Okay.
Google AI says April 20th, and then it says when April 2nd. So yeah, we're like 2 weeks away from that. So I feel like we're a lot of companies that if they're
Yeah.
gonna do a game announcement, they're waiting for that.
Well, because the
event.
first question is going to be, is it coming to Switch too?
Yeah. And I would imagine a lot of indie developers, right now is around the time we should get our flood of indie games. Usually it's like spring, summer, used to be Summer of Arcade, is when we get like some indie games we don't know existed released. And I feel like there is a little bit of a lull because Nintendo's probably going to get a lot of those announcements. They're probably not going to get a lot of big third-party announcements, but they'll get a couple. So everyone's kind of quiet till then. But let's jump into something that we'll hear about a day before the Switch event, and that is Respawn's next Star Wars game is going to be revealed April 19th. Sorry, April 19th is 2 weeks after the Switch reveal. So we'll hear about it after the Switch reveal. But April 19th, Star Wars game coming from Respawn is going to be announced. This is one of the 3 games in the Star Wars universe that Respawn is working on. This one is their strategy game that they are co-developing with the studio Bit Reactor, who is a team formed of people from XCOM, Civilization, and an assortment of other games. So Respawn is going full on Star Wars. This was kind of revealed a couple weeks ago during an EA Finance call. Respawn is working on a Jedi Survivor sequel, so the 3rd game in their trilogy for that. They are working on a shooter in the Star Wars universe and this strategy game in the Star Wars universe, which they're only co-developing. So I don't really know what that means for like how much work they're actually doing. But yeah, this will be revealed April 19th. No idea what to expect in terms of like, will this be a mobile game? It's a strategy game, so it could work with a handheld sort of
Also
thing.
weird. It's a Saturday.
Yeah.
So,
but
like,
it's happening during a Star Wars convention in Tokyo.
Okay.
So-
that makes a lot more sense then. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you? So I guess are you at all worried about potential like we've been talking about someone with the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Are you worried about Star Wars video game fatigue?
100%.
Okay.
I think I was kind of fatigued out when EA was doing the Battlefront games. And a lot of the smaller ones that they've had Aspire doing the last couple of years, we've had a lot of remasters of
and the
games.
thing about it too is like Jedi Survivor, Fallen Order, and Outlaws are all what I believe to be relatively unique story arcs. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
that part is those. I think those are some really solid games. Like I haven't really gotten very far in Outlaws. I believe I finished the first Jedi. It was a Survivor or Fallen Order. I think it was Survivor.
Fallen Order and then Survivor.
Yeah. So, and I really don't remember playing the second one much, but it's eventually like obviously like on the list like a bunch of other stuff is too, but I'm not a huge Star Wars like junkie, and like I was hearing a lot of really good things about Outlaw. I really heard about the Survivor and Fallen Order series, and the like those are all really solid games. For me, I would, and I think they've already told us it's not, but I would want this to be continuing the Fallen Order and Survivor universe storylines. Like that's what I would want.
Yeah, especially if it's a smaller like strategy sort of thing. I'm not expecting some gigantic XCOM size thing, even though this is like some people from that team. I imagine this is a smaller thing that would fit as like supplementary to
Oh, there is another one in the
Jedi
Survivor trailer. Okay, I missed that. I must have just not. Okay, sorry. My mistake.
I feel like it should just fit in with that, whether it does or not, or how big or small it is in terms of importance. We'll have
or
to
even
see.
acknowledging it's in that universe, even though it doesn't interact with the characters, but it's in the same world.
Yeah, but it's also Star Wars, so it's like technically all of them are in that universe.
I know,
so it's just a matter of how closely it ties in with that is going to be the key. I'm surprised EA is helping fund a strategy game, unless this is a mobile game, which then it would be like, okay, of course EA would like throw some money at a mobile game and hope something sticks. Because I don't think Star Wars really has jumped into the mobile market, at least as far as I know. Marvel is super into the mobile market, but not necessarily Star Wars. So it could be big for them. I'm assuming Respawn is just kind of, this is being considered a Respawn game, but again, there's another developer working on it, so I'm assuming it's just like, hey, story people from Respawn, does this gel with what you were doing? And then they get the green light. But we'll see how this ends up going. The fact that there's 3 Star Wars games coming out of Respawn is still kind of wild to me. I guess we're not getting Titanfall 3 ever and Apex 2 because EA keeps going back and forth. But do you think it's a good strategy for EA to just kind of go all in on Star Wars and Marvel, apparently?
Oh, I really don't think they have a choice right now in terms of like kind of what their board wants. Is their board is going to want some big return on investment, and they, as a company, have been kind of like they got the NCAA thing done. That turned out to be what appears, at least on paper, not on paper, but to be very, very successful. Although we are in like February, March, almost April, and we haven't really heard about NCAA 26, and that would be a typically like an August release. But I also don't know the cadence of like when they would talk about Madden. So, but they thought that they could make like Soccer Club without FIFA, and that actually showed to be like harmful. So in terms of like, and so that's not helping the board's case of like somebody coming in like, hey, I want to have like a new IP or whatever, and they're like, no, like because we need names, and like we went away from names and we saw a decrease. So like no, like I guess unless you're Hazelight, like
and that's just a partnership that is just like they're their own independent bubble too.
Yeah. So I think that the powers that be are really worried about brand and name recognition right now with their IPs. So
yeah, I don't know how well this will work for EA, especially they've kind of abandoned like their racing thing, even though they acquired several racing studios. Doesn't seem like they're really too into keeping those up, and they've killed a couple of those franchises. Battlefield, we know that's like in this weird turmoil thing. I keep seeing stuff pop up for Battlefield, nothing worth talking about on the podcast.
But it's all like service shit, like all of it, and it's kind of like scary.
It's all service shit, and then it's all just like, oh, they're working on some ideas. Hopefully it works out. Nothing like definitive, like this is going to be something that happens. So like they're in a weird spot. College football is going to be annual, right? As far as we know,
they haven't really said. I mean, there's a couple like content creators that I follow that are like rumors for 26, and I'm like, they haven't really told us that 26 is. They haven't like I don't know if I personally have seen EA say 26.
Yeah, and I've been very curious about that because when is college football season exactly?
Like Labor Day.
Labor Day. Okay, so it's like not too far from like regular football or professional. So yeah, you would imagine that should start happening. I did see college football for like $10 at like Best Buy and Walmart this past weekend.
Really?
Which is probably going to move a shit ton more copies. Which means they're probably close to like, let's just clear the inventory for that. And
okay. So EA Sports has yet to reveal any details about College Football 26. To keep in mind, this is also Google AI that told Michael like the Switch reveals on Easter. Though it did confirm in January via social media that it will drop sometime in the summer.
Okay, so they'll have that. I wonder if
it looks like there's NIL payments more than doubles for players opting to participate in the video game for 2026. To be fair, that double is not a lot still. Like
no, I think they said on average it was like $500 per player.
Correct.
But that's taking into account all the like the low end.
This one's saying EA Sports will compensate players who opt into the game this summer at least $1,500 and a deluxe edition copy of the game on the console of their choice. So and
I didn't even think of that. Like they didn't even get copies.
Oh no, they did.
Time.
They did last year. Okay. Yeah, they did. But the other big thing that like you have to wonder like as is the next step. And I think there's terrifying, and not that I wanted this to turn into a college football story, but there's concerns about putting it on PC with the mod community and like the NIL versus like the NFL Players Association. Like that's a whole different worm and a whole different
You're just
bag.
making a forever game at that point.
Yeah. So there's definitely, so I would love to see this come to PC. That would as the next step, but I don't know. Also, I'm intrigued at this point in time. Like, can the Switch 2 run it? Like college, like football is not a super taxing game.
It isn't, and EA doesn't really go feature rich with their releases anyways. I would imagine if you're EA, you were trying your damn best, especially if the Switch 2's coming out around Labor Day,
Yeah.
potentially. Like
MLB The Show,
If-
like always, was really solid on the Switch, and I understand baseball is different than football, but I was super, super impressed with what Sony San Diego was able to do, or whomever, to get this thing to run on the Switch. So
I think if you're EA, you're going to, I forget what the studio that did college football's name is, you're going into their offices and you're like, we need to be a launch title for the Switch 2.
yeah. Now, like,
Do whatever
obviously,
you
I'm
have
not
to do.
expecting like online Dynasty or anything to work on the Switch, but doing your create a player or doing your Dynasty, like, and then you can just kind of play it on in your. I mean, like, that's a very interesting opportunity. If they can go from 2 platforms to potentially 4 platforms, oh my goodness. Like,
Even if they skip PC and they're just like, hey, we just have
Yeah.
it on the Switch,
Yeah.
and cross progression or cross save would be amazing.
Yep. So.
But we'll see what that does. EA's known to.
But I mean, the whole gist
Drop.
of this is that NCAA, NFL, losing FIFA, Star Wars, and Marvel, like, you're not going to see as somebody come in there like, I want to make a, I can't even think of an example. I want to make a new Spyro style thing, and they're gonna be like, get out.
Yeah, unless you're Joseph Ferris.
Yeah.
That's the only one who has that pass. But he's got a gimmick of just like, hey, we're going to make a co-op game and it's going to only cost this many millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, you'll get us a Game of the Year award, and then we can say we have a Game of the Year award. Because
Yeah.
none of our stuff gets Game of the Year awards.
You'll look cute in a plaque on the wall in the hallway when you walk down our stuff, like walk down our lobby.
So then, the CEO during a call can be like, we sold bajillion copies and won 50 Game of the Year awards for our indie game. That would be the perfect thing for that for EA. All right, moving on to the next story is Ubisoft is closer to spinning off. So this is follow up to the thing that we talked about a couple months ago. Ubisoft has reportedly contacted interested parties, including Tencent, in starting a bidding war on this new entity that they are creating that would manage the franchises Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Rainbow Six, and maybe 1 or 2 other big franchises. This would become a separate company from Ubisoft, which is expected to be valued higher than Ubisoft currently is now, or what Ubisoft would become after losing these franchises. The Guillemot family would still control Ubisoft, and they would have a certain amount of say in this new company. This comes the same week that Assassin's Creed Shadow released and is the highest rated in the franchise in a long time.
I'm hearing some pretty good things, and I've seen some.
Yeah.
I think it comes. Did it come out like 2 days ago, or no? Or does this one come out in 2 days?
It 2 day. It comes out this week, but they did a gold edition that has a couple days early,
Yeah.
so it's out this week. Is
Yeah.
what we can say.
It's doing the Ubi thing. And I swear I probably said this when you told me of this story like a month ago or 6 weeks ago or 2 months ago, however long you told it to me too. But there's no way these guys can have their cake and eat it too, and then freeze it and eat it again and then freeze it again. They can't. Like
They
this.
sound like they are going to get away with it though, because they are
This
now
is
telling.
crazy. Like, you're gonna take you're essentially gonna take like a little league all-star team, or a little league, like go to a league of like 12 teams, and you're like, I want 1 player from each team, and then all of a sudden that team and then the other
They're
11
doing an
players.
expansion draft.
Yeah, and I'm just like, but they're getting like the best things, and it's just like, you're gonna pull Rainbow Six, and you're gonna pull Assassin's Creed, you're gonna pull Far Cry, and maybe potentially something else in there, and
Probably
then
Just Dance
and call this like
something.
soft Ubi, like, I don't know, and it's
Ubi hard.
you're terrible.
What? It's only the hits.
Nope, I'm not gonna say it because I was gonna say something that's really bad.
Yep.
But and still having like I said, like you said, split into like almost like I guess, what do you call it, like stock split?
No, this feels like, so remember when like Toys R Us was bought, as happened with Bed Bath & Beyond too, where a equity firm purchased the company and then they put all their debt in that company and let that company die.
Yeah.
This feels like we're taking all of the good stuff from Ubisoft and then leaving just all the debt with Ubisoft and then having a fresh start with Ubi Hard, which is now what I'm going to coin this new company. So they're basically going to just leave Ubisoft.
The hits just keep
like
coming.
This. Yep, the hits just keep coming, Dave. And then Ubisoft is just going to be this like debt-ridden, flaccid company that has just got no chance of surviving. And it will just go away because it's going to be like, hey, this is the company that files bankruptcy, and then this is the company that makes money. This sounds like the cleanest way for Ubisoft or the Guillemot family to be like, let's cut all the dead weight without looking like bad guys, because then we could be like, hey, we separated the two companies, and that company just failed on its own, and this company's thriving. Like it is a complete separation of the good and the bad.
Yeah, it's so bad. Like I I guess maybe this is how you get away with something when you're a European-based company. Like, right? They're European.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
Like,
it's a French company. So,
yes.
yeah.
So it's just because, like, if you tried to do this in the United States, this thing would be in court forever, I think.
Yeah, well, I feel like EA kind of started to do this. Remember when they're like, we're spinning off EA Sports into like its own thing, so now there's like two separate earnings, but there's at least good stuff still at EA proper and not just everything in EA Sports. So this is a very dramatic shift for what Ubisoft could be doing. And also, it sounds like the Guillemot family is just going to be in charge of both. So, like, you're right.
So what's the point? Like, I guess, like, what's the purpose?
They play with Tencent's money.
Yeah, other than to fold the company and maybe not run the potential of. I guess the only thing that I can think of now that I'm saying this out loud that you're potentially protecting yourself from is like the old THQ fire sale we saw. Like, where all the IPs like just went up for auction.
Yeah, they're saving the good stuff. Like, we're going to hold on to this stuff, whatever happens here. Like, maybe Ubisoft just turns into like, hey, that will be the company that does the family games like Just Dance and the Rabbids games.
Yeah.
And then if you're at one of the studios that are not in the Assassin's Creed Rainbow Six Far Cry bucket or the family bucket, you're probably not going to be a company anymore.
Or your game does really well. Hey, you're getting called up to the Ubi Hard team.
Yeah. No, I'd say that it ends up going. It's like, oh, you're successful enough? I'm not. Get over here. We're apparently going to find out more because it sounds like they're reaching out to multiple like firms or like bigger companies. I wonder though. This is one of those things where they're separating it to make it cheaper to acquire, but it's also more valuable because the franchises are there without any of the dead weight of like some of their failed stuff. I wonder if there will be like a mini fire sale, or if you're just going to have like a bigger publisher, you know, like an EA, maybe a Microsoft, a PlayStation, Take-Two, that would go for the Ubi hard and like beat Tencent. And then Ubisoft, when whatever doesn't fit in that bucket, goes up for sale. You know, like, do they go to like Nintendo and are like, do you want the Rabbids? Because if not, we're going to kill this. We're going to kill this franchise. Hey, PlayStation, do you want Beyond Good and Evil? Because we're gonna kill it because it doesn't fit in either one of these two companies.
Like, where does Division go? Like, I just like where does Massive Entertainment go? They made Outlaws. They're making the Division. The Division 3 is supposed to be in active development. They're hiring for it. Like, there's like what happens to the oh my gosh, the Pandora series, like the IP. Like, there's a lot of questions outside of.
I would imagine licensed stuff goes to Ubisoft.
Right, but I was just saying there's a middle ground. Like, obviously we have some lower points of Ubisoft, and we have some higher points, but then we have that middle ground of like Pandora wasn't great, it wasn't bad. Division's had its day, and twice, with Division 1 and Division 2, and and they tried to like pull this out for a long time, but there's a lot of questions like.
Yeah, especially like Division was good because also
or just the Tom Clancy name in general.
Yeah, but also what helped Ubisoft for so long when they were really in their prime is like every Ubisoft company would touch a game.
Yeah.
What happens when those companies get separated?
Yeah. Ghost Recon series, like they're not they're that solid 7.7. They're not Far Cry 3 or 4 or like marquee things where they niche the thing of like where like the villain is the main character, which is what the Far Cry thing does, and people like Assassin's Creed is a marquee brand where I think like my sister who doesn't play video games could identify, like she's like, I know what that is, like.
But, no, exactly. But like I'm also in a point where I'm just like, okay, can Massive produce a game like they did before without the help of Ubisoft Singapore, Ubisoft Montreal, Ubisoft Toronto touching that game?
Right.
If those all get
Far Cry Studio do it either?
Yeah, no, all of them, because Ubisoft was built on this like, hey, we have 20 studios and they all touch the game in different aspects. Like,
I mean, the like literally on that pyramid where Far Cry is at the top of the pyramid, but underneath the foundation of it is like 6 studios.
Yeah, especially when you get into the live service stuff.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of like live service stuff that like they work on or have
There's
worked
just
on.
so many. There's
Canceled
so
most
many
of it.
questions, and there's so much things that there's so many things that they own that could be like high dollar or low dollar, just because it's been so long. Like, and it's just
Yeah.
it's fascinating.
Does it
So,
does it turn into a thing where they put all their debt on Ubisoft, and then Ubisoft has to do a fire sale, and then Ubi Hard is like, we'll buy it, and then they buy it for like pennies on the dollar, and then they just remake Ubisoft again, and it's just like, what the fuck are we doing? Like this is gonna be like the weirdest story to follow for who knows how long this takes. And also, who's going to buy it? You know, Tencent could buy it, and Tencent, for the most part, have been kind of hands off. But it sounds like Tencent could have bought Ubisoft for a couple years now and have like refused to because they don't like, you know, the direction of the company. And it's just like, why would they buy it now? Microsoft probably can't afford to. I mean, they can afford it, but they probably don't want to deal with another acquisition right now. PlayStation maybe could afford it, but like, do they want to deal with this? Especially like, I would imagine you don't want the current people in charge of this new company if you buy it, like realistically, because look at where they're at now. But we'll see how Ubisoft goes, what they do, what they decide to do or don't do. All right, next story. We have some PlayStation stuff. All right, so PlayStation has formed a new studio, a new first-party studio called Dark Outlaw Games. And it is founded by Jason Blundell, who's the former studio head of Treyarch and the co-creator of the Zombie Mode. He recently was part of Deviation Games, which was working with PlayStation to develop a new IP, only for PlayStation to cancel that project and then the studio to ultimately close. The new studio will be staffed by former Deviation Games employees. And all we know is that they are working on a new game for PlayStation. Dave, this is a weird roundabout circle of life sort of thing. Your reaction to hear that they basically are now acquiring a studio that they pretty much closed.
I don't understand. Like, I just generally like, why'd you close them then? Like
yeah, why'd you pull your contract and force them to close?
Yeah, so
because they weren't acquired officially the first time, but they were the main funder for that studio.
It's just like why would these people go? Like, what is Herman Hulst, like, what are they telling him? Like, hey, we're gonna do this, and you're gonna sign on to do this and build your own team and like work for like 2 years and have your thing just blown up again? Like, I don't want that to happen, but the track record shows that, you know, like, it's gonna happen. Like, if I'm anybody independently, like that, like Sony wants to come look at it, like, oh, we really like this, we want to absorb this. Like, no, like, we can sign some kind of publishing deal, but like, stay away. I don't want to turn into Concord. I don't want to turn into.
But last time they signed a publishing deal with them, Sony pulled the contract and they had to close. So it's like,
yeah, I guess I didn't realize that, you know, but it's so like. I mean, I don't understand. Like, at this point in time, just play it, like, both of them, play it safe. Like, I don't even, you know, like, hey, we'll help market your game. Like, maybe don't even sign like a publishing deal, because like you're putting too much stuff onto one side. Like, cause like, especially like, and I want to go down this thing, but Sony's going to be like, yeah, you're only going to put it on Sony then, right? Like, you can put it on Switch. You can't put it on Xbox. Like, you know, like it, you know,
maybe, yeah.
And so it's like, I understand there's not a lot of Xbox things out there. Ideally, you could put it on PC, but they're going to want you to put it on PlayStation first and market it about on PlayStation, put the logos on it, and do that PSN logo of sign-on thing on PC, on Steam, and all that stuff. Like, I don't know. Like, at this point in time, I wouldn't touch Sony or Xbox at this point in time. Like, in terms of letting them, you know, connect to you, like get into bed with you, like, at this point in time, just because it's,
especially for a new studio.
Yeah, it's just too risky. I'd rather, you know, you've seen more success with like EA's like partnerships with these studios, or I mean, I almost want to say Bethesda, but Bethesda's owned by Microsoft now, so you really can't. So like, it's just a really, really weird time, like really, really weird time.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that popped into my head. The first thing is this could be a thing where Jim Ryan is the reason that last game was canceled, and Herman Hulst is like, I really fucking liked what you were working on. Let's try it again. Possible, unlikely, but it could be. Like there is a new regime, and they could be looking at stuff of just like, actually, this was interesting enough, we can see it through. And then the second thing is, this goes back to the Shuhei Yoshida interview he did with Colin Moriarty. At one point during the interview, they were talking about acquisitions and stuff like that. And Shu basically said, it's actually cheaper to just own the studio outright than to do like the contract negotiations and publishing deals with milestones, and then having to worry about the studio being distracted by trying to hunt down their next project instead of just focusing on their current project. Because if it's a game by game basis,
it's a toy until you're done with the toy, and then you're like, all right, throw it away.
Yeah, and then they have to, do the thing where it's like, okay, we need to worry about our next paycheck. Let's pull people off, or our next project. Let's pull people off this so then we can worry about pitching our next project to someone. So this could have been a thing where they looked at it of just like, okay, we could go into the milestone achievement thing, which we'll talk about in the next thing. Or we could just give you the money to start your studio outright. You already have the people. It's just easier to do it this way, and we don't have to worry about, checking in as frequent or worrying about budget stuff because you're now within the PlayStation family.
Mm-hmm.
But to that point, if PlayStation already canceled your first game, it is super weird to go into it. But I think that's where we
how soon do they just like, oh, we control the board now? Like we're hearing rumors out of Bungie, like to where it's like it just doesn't matter. Like, oh, you didn't hit a milestone, so now Herman Hulst is in charge of your studio.
Yeah, and it could be that. And at that point, it's just like, what are you acquiring if you're just going to take over anyways? And this could be one of those scenes where it's like Jason Blundell has a really good track record, a veteran for like decades in the video game industry, was at Treyarch as a studio head, created the zombies mode, which has turned into like a tier of, or a pillar of Call of Duty. So he can probably get studio jobs like this or create studios whatever he wants. So it's just like, take the paycheck and then hopefully something comes of it. Like you're signing this studio because of him primarily.
Yeah, but we've seen that in multiple other aspects. The Haven studio that they for Fair Games. Look, I remembered it. The Amy Hennig studio, like in that we've seen these things.
The Halo creator,
guys
on his fifth
or
studio.
the Bungie spinoff. Like like we've seen tons of things before, and it just doesn't. I can't think of a current relative success story in the last 5 to 7 years.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of is PlayStation is putting the effort into like, hey, you are going to be a first party studio, which probably allows them to supply with better support for that studio as opposed to if it was just a contract gig. So there might be a little bit more confidence in this project.
I get what you're saying, but I'm not seeing any return on investment from Guerrilla's engine.
No, I'm not either.
Like what is Sony holding on to that's like so? I mean, I think the only time we've seen the Guerrilla engine outside of Horizon is Death Stranding, correct? Yeah. And so like I'm not hearing anything about like the God of War one cut engine. Alleged one cut, like I'm not like it just doesn't seem, and Microsoft's in the same boat, by the way. It just doesn't seem like they have anything that's like,
there's no tech.
Yeah, that's like super cool. Like we just like the Nemesis system that we just now is just gone. Like that was a process of something of like you could see like that's why they wanted. It's why supposedly Sony bought Insomniac so fast because of what Insomniac was doing in the VR spectrum. Now, obviously, we've seen some of the VR stuff change direction of how successful or how supportive it can be or can't be, and how much return on investment you get from that. But that was still something that, at least at that time, that Insomniac had, because the concern was that Meta was going to buy them because of everything they were doing in VR.
Yeah, they didn't want to lose that, and then also they bought Insomniac because Insomniac had a work pipeline.
Yeah,
Sony was like,
but at least there was something there. Like, what is this deviation style studio? Like, I guess to your point, unless there's something that they showed Hulst that he's like he really wants to flesh out. But we've seen potential passion projects from people of like, I really like this, like not work, and we've seen some massive heads roll at Sony going all the way back to the free to play experiment. like when they released those 3 or 4 games, and that just fell hard.
This also, this sound bad, but at least it's not another Bungie founders studio at this point. So
well, to be fair,
like,
there's none of those studios left anymore.
That's what I'm saying. You know, so where it's just like, okay, we're gonna sign someone who didn't work at Bungie.
Yeah.
And hope that, because like, okay, this person has a Call of Duty pedigree. They did the zombies thing, which is like the most creative thing to come out of Call of Duty in a long time, you know, forever basically. So there could be something there for them. I hope this isn't going to be a live service game scenario. I hope it's just a multiplayer game, if anything. But the pedigree of the studio is like, hey, they could probably think of some good co-op or single player stuff. So we can see what's going to go on with that. We don't know if they're working on like a new IP or if it's going to be an existing franchise. Most likely new IP. But this does mean we're probably years away, unless they can pick up work from Deviation Games, like whatever work they were working on before.
All of them. I mean, Microsoft's done a pretty good job with their little developer direct things of saying like next 6 months and everything like that. Sony's done a terrible job. Like we haven't seen Fair Games in forever.
I think Fair Games is going into hiding, and it's either gonna come out next year or we're never gonna see it.
But we haven't seen a peep about Marathon. We haven't seen or supposedly that spinoff of where they got the whatever that Project Gummy Bears things, they pulled that from Bungie and put it to somebody else in the studios. Like there's a lot. Like I'm asking myself the same question I was like this time last year, and it was, I guess it ended up being like Helldivers 2, but like what in the next 6 to 8 months from Sony am I gonna be looking forward to, or am I gonna be playing?
And we'll talk about this with the next game that we're gonna, or if the next thing becomes a game. I feel like PlayStation is now at the point where they're already thinking about PS6 launch. Like, honestly, like they're thinking the end of life PS5.
Yeah, but then at that point in time, they better be ready to come with like a dozen titles.
They potentially could be because, but the only problem is if you, we have to do an episode where we just go through all the PlayStation first party studios on what they could be doing, what they shouldn't be doing. But we're gonna have a lot of studios that are just.
Because do you think Ghost 2 is coming out this fall?
Yeah, it's supposed to come out this year. I thought it was. I think it had like a release window.
Okay, I don't recall that, and I don't believe it. So.
Yeah, no, me neither. But it could be the holiday game for this year.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, this has a 2025 release date. Okay. But yeah, no, and then Insomniac Wolverine will be next year, which is kind of what we were thinking. It was gonna be. So like, but again, it's gonna be Insomniac doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
That's also a long time for Insomniac's cadence. I'm not saying it's a long time in video games, but it's a long time for Insomniac's cadence from Spider-Man 2 to Wolverine.
Yeah, which could be good because if we saw from the leaks, they have a lot of stuff in the works.
Right.
And then Sucker Punch will give us one game a generation, apparently. Maybe they can squeeze out 2. Technically, they squeezed out 2 in the PS4 generation. Bend will just sit there and
bend
the abyss. Media Molecule will put their heart into something that PlayStation just won't give a shit about once a generation. So. And Polyphony will release a Gran Turismo that will just sell once a generation, but it sells so much that PlayStation's like, keep doing what you're doing. Though, with Forza now coming to PlayStation, I wonder if that is going to light a little bit of fire under Polyphony. Not that they're going to bust out 2-3 games.
It's just the same thing we talked about with Guerrilla. Yes, Guerrilla or Horizon Forbidden West was essentially a PS4 title with a PS5 upgrade. So like they really haven't released something exclusively on next gen. And to your point, like, are they going to air quote skip the entire PS5 generation? I'm not saying that they did, because like the game was on PS5. I understand that it had a bunch of cool stuff. So I'm like,
it had DLC.
Yeah, but it was built with the PS4 in mind for at a core foundation.
Is Naughty Dog going to skip this whole generation? Because I don't think the Prophet game or whatever, Intergalactic, I have a doubt it's coming anytime soon.
I think it's coming. It would be end of cycle, beginning of cycle kind of thing. But so like, which one is it? It's then?
Crazy.
Yeah. But we're also hearing rumors about PS6 in 2027, which means announcements in 2026, which means announcement like this time a year from now. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of crazy to think about that.
Yeah, with this generation feels too short, but it also almost feels too long. We're in year 5 of this generation. But yeah, the next story also coming out of PlayStation. PlayStation and People Can Fly announced a new partnership. So People Can Fly and PlayStation announced a new partnership for prototype work on an existing PlayStation IP. The Polish studio shared a press release just basically saying that they are doing a work for hire agreement to see if they can come up with a new idea or a new game for an existing IP at PlayStation. No details were shared beyond that announcement. People Can Fly have been going for about 20 years now. Previous works include Bulletstorm and Outriders for like original IPs they worked on. They spent some time owned by Epic Games, and they worked on PC ports for Gears of War, and also they worked on the early Fortnite. They currently are working with Microsoft and Coalition Games on the next Gears of War title, and they have a few announced projects under code names in various stages of development, though they have canceled the projects at Square Enix and Take-Two. Or Take-Two and Square Enix canceled those projects on their behalf. So basically, this is something, if it gets greenlit, we won't see for like 6 years. But the only reason we're finding out is People Can Fly, and they're on like the Polish stock exchange, so they have to announce this sort of stuff. So it's rare that we hear of a company admitting that they are prototyping ideas, and this specifically is they're working on a existing PlayStation IP. Dave, I know you don't like talking about stuff that like we have no idea if this will ever become a thing, but what do you think they're potentially working on based on People Can Fly's pedigree?
A third-person cover-based shooter,
which could be potentially so many things, or they could do first person as well, but they do third person cover.
I mean, like Outriders was essentially like the Division on in space, like kind of
which
like,
was a pretty
I have no
game,
problem with Outriders. Very, very solid. Like that, I'm very interested in this and intrigued in this. But then at the same time, like this kind of like, what are they going to do in between? Like this is so like information that I don't need to know. And I get that we know it. It's
fascinating when we do get it.
Yeah, obviously. So I know they're like they're doing the coalition. Like I feel like everybody and their mother is going to touch this coalition game.
And that the Dark Zero game, the Perfect Dark game, is another one that everyone's touching. That's the initiative that like, everyone else is touching.
They're attached to Square Enix, and Square Enix is attached to Microsoft, and Microsoft's attached to Coalition, and Coalition's attached to Perfect Dark, and I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
So, I guess ultimately as what apparently seems to be one of these rare freestanding studios.
Yeah, they're like an actual independent studio.
Yeah, so they all seem to be in Europe right about now. Like the Cyberpunk and Witcher developer, their name is completely escaping me right now.
CD Projekt Red.
Yeah, them CD Projekt Red.
Yeah, they're also Polish.
Yeah, they're Polish too. So it's like, is like Poland becoming like the new like Delaware for like credit cards?
No, it just turns out there's better workers' rights in Europe. Yeah, so a lot of these companies can't stay independent.
Yeah, I understand and I get it. But it's just interesting. Sure, like cool. Thanks for telling me, but show me, please, show me something.
Yeah, this is one of those stories that like immediately. My head's like, what could they be working on? Looking at their pedigree, like Bulletstorm, I believe, had a weapon wheel that would work for Resistance pretty well, and they did sci-fi pretty well.
Outriders had a weapon wheel.
Yep. So like that Resistance would be perfect for them. Killzone, I can easily see their work translating to Killzone.
I get that, but then at the same time, like you said, it's 6 years, like 5 years, like so we're talking 2030.
Yeah. If it gets greenlit, they could put all this work in and nothing comes
right, but you're talking about 18 years between Resistance?
Yes. So I was also thinking about this in terms of just like, okay, if you were going to make another PlayStation TV show, not on brand recognition, but just on premise, I think Resistance could work well, and you would probably want to have like a video game to go along with it. Because that's how PlayStation is probably thinking of stuff now, based on like, hey, we have a Horizon show coming, we have God of War show coming.
Do they though? Do they really?
The God of War one sounds like it's moving along, and I think Horizon got bumped to a movie. But hey, if they were able to get a Gran Turismo,
they're talking about a
movie to happen-
Helldivers cartoon too or something. Like, come on, you know, like.
But it shows you PlayStation is full on in this, like, hey, we want like a movie, TV show, IP along with a game, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, okay, Resistance could work really well in terms of like, hey, it could be a period piece war drama about an alien invasion during World War II. That sounds like a cool premise that would probably do well on Netflix. Killzone is a little bit harder for me to see happening. And it has to be a shooter. They're not doing SOCOM because that'd be such a waste of People Can Fly if they did like a generic shooting game. Especially, I don't think generic shooting games can work anymore in our current environment with
What's
like
what's it called?
Fortnite and stuff
Warframe?
existing.
What's it called? Warframe? What's that one? It's the War Thunder, not War Thunder, the other one. Like,
Warframe.
yeah, the flying game and the ground game and the thing that had its own server on PS3.
War Thunder. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's not it either. But
World of Tanks.
no, the game that always had its own servers and everybody keeps talking about, like,
Warhawk.
yeah, that. There you go.
Okay, which that's a little bit more wacky, but like,
Yeah.
hey, they potentially could do something like that. I would say that project would be doomed to fail if they're
Yep,
signed a deal to prototype a Warhawk.
I agree.
So it would probably have to be Resistance or Killzone because those are the only franchises I could think that could work with this company.
Splinter Cell
Ma-
or Siphon Filter? What is Ben?
Siphon Filter?
Yeah.
Siphon Filter.
Yeah.
Which also sounds like it would be a waste to
Yeah.
put.
I'm just giving giving stuff that's been in the graveyard for a while. That's all. Like,
Yeah. Because it'd be weird if they're like, "Hey, we're rebooting the medieval franchise."
Jack and
you
Daxter.
know, like I can see it. I
Yeah.
can see it potentially, but I almost feel like you don't need to prototype that. Like,
yeah,
you
I
literally
agree.
could just
Yeah,
like
Skylanders.
do it. Yeah, it would be one of those things where like there's certain games that you would just immediately be like, okay, yeah, do that. But I think if this is going to be like a multiplayer game potentially, and
Yeah.
you're using their pedigree, you're probably like, pitch me your Resistance or Killzone game and prototype it because there needs to be probably a special hook to it. Even though I think they would be fine just doing like a standard single player with like multiplayer modes, but they probably need a big pitch for this. And based on how Outriders turned out in terms of that was supposed to be a live service game, but then it wasn't a live service game.
And then it kind of was.
It wasn't. It wasn't
yeah,
like
it had expansions and stuff. So, but
yeah. But like those, like literally Killzone and Resistance are the only things I think that PlayStation owns that could work. Warhawk, Starhawk can't work. SOCOM's boring. I'm going to say it again. SOCOM's a very boring thing to try and bring out in 2030.
30. Yeah.
And same thing with like Siphon Filter feels like you need a single player.
They get to
game
work
for
on
that.
factions.
That would be hilarious, especially because Factions, but they're prototyping. So like Factions,
Yeah.
it sounds like that was a done product
Yeah, I
that they
know.
were just
Just
told
like-
they can't do. But yeah, we'll see what's going to happen. I assume it's going to be some form of multiplayer because if it was single player, you would just do it, right? Like, I
Yeah,
feel
there
like you
really
don't have to
wouldn't be, like,
prototype a single
prototyping,
player
yeah.
game.
Agreed.
It'd just be like, oh, you have idea, do idea. But this is like, see if you can make some magic with one of our IPs. But we'll see what happens with that in 5 years. if
Or
that
when we
happens.
find
Well,
out this deal is dead and then Sony closes, People Can Fly.
yeah, people can fly suddenly are like, yeah, we have to close, and it's just like, why? And it's just like no reason, and it's like, oh, PlayStation pulled the plug. And then Deviation Games or whatever.
Yeah.
God, I don't even like the name of the new studio. What is it? Dark Outlaw. Dark Outlaw is just like, haha, they're dealing with what we had to deal with.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all we have for news. I want to know so much about PlayStation's first party output and everything that they announced lately. This seems like everything's so far away.
Yeah. I mean, like, when's the last state of play we had?
Like a month ago? Or how many months ago was
Oh,
it?
I feels like maybe, but no, but that wasn't any. I don't think that was anything first party, right?
No, it was nothing first party.
Yeah. So I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
If
I
that
need
really
to know.
counts for me, sorry. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm with you. So All right. So playing and watching. So my mom's birthday was this weekend, so she was down for that. My brother came up from North Carolina for that, so that did take up some time. And so we got Angela and I got a little bit more time with Splitgate. That game continues to just throw stuff at like. There's not even so I like it. We're enjoying it. I don't. I'm probably not very far at all, Michael. When I say like we just fought the hammer guy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, and we're still kind of like figuring some stuff out. So, we did that like last night. But like just some of the stuff that they're like that it's, and I think that this is partially why we stopped playing It Takes Two. I can't, for the most part, like carry this process. Like that other, like there's things that the other character has to do that sometimes just take some dexterity and some effort, and she like it hasn't been terrible, but it's been like there's been enough times that I've gotten to the point where you like press and hold triangle on the door waiting for your partner to show up that I just set my controller down and start putzing on my phone. So like she says that she's still enjoying it, and some of the most entertaining thing is that she's like when she's swinging like doing a lot of the tethering and the swinging, like she's literally like swinging the controller. So
It's
like,
okay, Dave. It's okay.
So yeah, like that's for the most part what you know, like since because we did record a little later last week compared to this week, so like the window for me has been tight, and like I said, my mom was in town, so that is essentially what I've been playing and watching. I did forget, and I don't know, last week, and I wanted to talk about it this week. So I was sick like 2 weeks ago. There is and I don't know any of the actors or actresses' name because I'm terrible at this. There is a show on Netflix called Running Point. It has one season, and it's essentially like they promote it's a family owned team. They're essentially supposed to be the Los Angeles Lakers, but they're called the Los Angeles Waves. And they it's a family owned, and the dad has passed away, and it's ran by like two brothers, and the daughter is like the head of charitable contributions, and she ends up being appointed by one of her brothers like director of basketball operations. Like so she's like running the team, and there's like during the season of like they're just trying to make it like an executive thing, and that of how this is functioning. It actually is not. I wouldn't say that it's like some amazing show that's like a must watch. But if you're
Does it have a laugh track?
no, no laugh tracks. It's published by Netflix. They've already announced and greenlit a season 2. So it seems to be like it's doing well. I don't even really know what type of genre or anything that I would call it, but if you like basketball and then there's a little bit of drama, this is something you can watch with a partner, with a spouse. And there's a little bit of, a little bit to it. Michael, to be totally honest, I think you would watch an episode and be like, yeah, I'm good.
Probably.
Yeah.
Especially, I'm still upset about them canceling show. Was it the Lakers show on HBO?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think I ever
the Magic
watched
Johnson one.
I forgot the name. What did you watch last week? You call it like Yellow Jackets or something? Like what?
Yeah, Yellow Jackets.
Okay, and that's on HBO. You said.
It's on Paramount, but the first season just hit Netflix, so they're on
Okay.
season 3 if you have Paramount. But if
I
you're on
have all
Netflix,
that,
they have
yeah,
season 1.
So, okay. All right, I'll have to. That's something that you kind of like sparked my interest a little bit to see if it'd be something that I could watch. So.
Yeah, it could be good.
Yeah, but for the most part, that's been it for playing and watching for me. So.
Yeah, for me, it's been continuing with Split Fiction, just a little bit more Marvel Rivals. I did the yard work this past weekend. I was on call this past weekend, so I just really wasn't into doing too much because on call just kept getting tickets in the early mornings that my phone was ringing. I'd have to call people and then try and put my customer service voice on for those people. I have a yard now, so I have to do yard work, so now I'm just doing boring middle-aged person shit. Which is just like, I planted clovers in my yard and then it fucking snowed the next day and I was like, shit, I probably killed all of those seeds. So yeah, just cleaning, organizing. I did get the random thing where it's just like since they announced Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 remastered, I've just been like, shit, you know what, I always wanted to own every copy of Tony Hawk 3 ever on every platform. And I only own the PS2 one, but now I have the GameCube one here, the Game Boy Color one here, fucking Game Boy Advance one here. So yeah, I just have every copy now. I need to get an Xbox copy and then a PS1 copy. But I've been playing those from time to time because it's my favorite game of all time. I don't even know if that came through on the stream based on where the camera is here. No. So just been kind of messing with Tony Hawk. I do need to go back to Tony Hawk 1+2 just to clean up some trophies, though that game is a complete and total grind, no pun intended, in order to get that platinum. And then I just need to go through my backlog. That's something I talked about doing last year of like trying to get through games. And I think I got through like 3 games and then I stopped. But I really need to stop buying games and actually playing them. So I need to make it a conscious effort to like just go through some of the stuff. I was like thinking of my PS3 games, and I'm just like, damn it, the longer I wait to play these, the more unfun they are going to be to play because they're going to age horrible.
Got more patience than I do. I can't do it. I can't.
It's why I can't play PS2 games.
Yeah.
Because the PS2 games are too archaic in terms of like camera controls and just controls in general. So like I need to play my PS3 games before they like just age beyond like any sort of comprehension for me to be able to play anymore. So might start. I literally have my video game app that has now added how long to beat to the collection list. So now literally I'm just gonna see what games in my collection are the shortest and
start to snowball it down. 3 hours done, 6 hours done, 7 hours done.
Yeah, just so I can have something done.
Yeah.
Especially like I noticed since we bought a house and like we finally have all the furniture we need. We did all the repairs that we needed to do to where now I'm just like in my house, just like, what the fuck do I do now? Like what?
I wish. Yeah. Just wait. You just wait.
No, I know, but I have the time now that I can say that. But I do know like once the weather gets nice, it's like, oh, I got to have someone take a look at this HVAC system.
Yeah. Wait till it rains, and it really, really rains.
No, it has. And I've been happy.
Okay.
Cause they redid the foundation, they weatherproofed the house pretty well, and it looks like my house is at the top of a hill because like when I look across the street or look down the street, it looks like it's going down. So I don't think I have too much flooding issues.
Okay.
But yeah, no, but I know like I will have more house responsibilities to go as I live here longer. But right now it's just like I don't know what to do. So I need to start getting through my backlog of games and stuff. But yeah, that's just pretty much it. Still watching Yellow Jackets. They're in the middle of season 3, but an episode every Friday. That's pretty much it video game wise and movie watching wise.
Okay. All right. So we actually did get a question. So Ben Palmer sent us a question in that he just happened to catch us live, which is rare for him. But so he said, what game announcement that eventually became vaporware have you been the most disappointed by? So I kind of had to look a little bit because I sometimes struggle with remembering, but did you have anything that came to mind right away?
The first thing that came to mind was the original plan for Final Fantasy 13 Versus. So originally 13 was going to be like a whole separate universe. They ended up getting a trilogy out of 13, but originally what became Final Fantasy 15 was called Final Fantasy 13 Versus and was like a completely different game. So every time I remember that trailer, I usually watch that trailer and I'm like, damn, this could have been super cool, but Square Enix just kind of blew up at that time. And then I also think back to Agent. Well, there's 2 games. There's like Agent, and that was the Rockstar game that they were going to make for PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
And it was going to be a whole new IP exclusive to PlayStation from Rockstar, like proper Rockstar. I think Rockstar North. And that was something I thought was going to be super cool. And that was like during that early PS3 era when like PlayStation was a little feisty. And then I think there was an MMO called The Agency around the same time of that. And that also got canceled back when there was like DC Universe Online and like a couple other MMOs coming to PlayStation. But The Agent is the one that I was like really excited for. And then there's a Daredevil game on the PS2. That there's prototype
you answer
of
that a lot better than I can.
Yeah, and then I get excited for this stuff. Unseen64 is one of my favorite websites.
Okay.
And they archive canceled games.
Okay. So, I mean, doing a little bit of quick Googling and searching, like I had forgotten, like some things I had forgotten about, but that Quantic Dream Star Wars game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's never coming.
Right. So like that only would be interesting because of what Quantic Dream did with Heavy Rain and did with Detroit Become Human. And then I guess this maybe doesn't count, and people are gonna probably roll their eyes. But like, I wonder what the Destiny franchise would look like if they had to stick to the Activision plan of literally
the
like
10-year plan or the trilogy
just the
plan?
Destiny 1, Destiny 2, Destiny 3, like numbered, you know, like the annualization that Kotick always wanted, like what it would have looked like or how it would have looked, because we know like what, you know, Bungie kind of did their own thing, and like they're the free to play route, which Activision would have never let them do. So I'd be very curious to what, because like potentially we could be like at a Destiny 5 or 6 at this point in time. And like what that would be, what that would feel like, what that would look like, in terms of like kind of like the hard resets, or like just how that would or would not have functioned. And then the other, like, I guess lowball thing for me that I can remember, that the whatever Sony Santa Monica was working on before they ended up going to God of War.
Oh, the sci-fi game.
Yeah. So
yeah, Shu actually talked about that.
Okay.
In the Colin Moriarty podcast.
Yeah.
Because he's the one that had to cancel it.
Okay.
Apparently they couldn't. It was a cool premise, but they couldn't figure out gameplay.
Okay.
So it was the most expensive game that Shu had ever canceled.
Wow.
And it was like $25+ million for that.
Yeah, and he said the two that came to mind for him were Little Devil Inside and Abandon.
Little Devil Inside, that's still coming, right? Like now I gotta look because I forgot that game existed. Little Devil.
But what
Inside.
was that? So the Abandoned game, is he talking about like that horror studio that was supposedly like working on something that we kept hearing about?
The ones that were pretending that they were Kojima.
Yeah.
I believe is Abandoned. Yeah. And yeah, Little Devil Inside. Like, what the fuck is going on with that? Because that was a cool looking game that looked like a whimsical like.
I'm trying to remember
like
if I ever got
movie.
to play something that didn't come out.
Oh, I feel like it happened a lot to me, but I can't think of anything. Because there's a lot of stuff that came out in like those indie booths at E3 that just never actually became a thing. But I think for the most part, everything I played came out. I've had games I played that looked better in the demo than the final version.
Yeah, but no, I'm trying to stay. I would have to really kind of go through and like I would actually have to like dig out some notes and stuff like that, which I don't really have, and or see what was like posted or something like that, which we can't see. So, but yeah, I would be very kind of like curious about that, like, or like we could do a whole show on this, like the original premise for Watch Dogs, like that we saw, that we saw, demo. Yeah, like that would be
Skull and Bones. That game was fun as hell. The 3 years we played it in a row at E3, and then what finally came out was not that game. So yeah, no, that would happen so damn much. In terms of games that did come out and then they're just like super disappointing. But yeah, no, there's if you're interested in like canceled games, Unseen64 is like a website that archives all that. They'll have some like video screenshots sort of thing. Saints Row had a weird real-time bullet demo thing on the 360, which was just like if you can control the bullet. And that was apparently a tech demo for something that they were thinking of doing back when 360 games are like the arcade was like super weird stuff. The Order 1886. I mean, we make fun out of that because it was a 4-hour game.
The sequel,
Yeah, well, that sequel probably would have been cool, especially if they would have had budget and time. There's a ton of stuff that if you'd like dig
or like
around,
if you think an Infamous 3, I believe an Infamous 3 existed.
Well, yeah, and then there's also before Ghost of Tsushima, Sucker Punch had a game called Prophecy or Prophet or Prophecy. That was something they were actively working on, and they canceled that. So this happens all the time. I want to know about Factions 2. That game was vaporware. That is probably now the most expensive thing that PlayStation worked on. I think Fair Games will probably be vaporware.
You don't think Concord costs more than Factions 2?
No, I think Factions probably cost more. It was in development longer.
Okay.
Ideally. Are we just talking about the game, or are you going to include like acquiring the studio? If you acquire the studio,
I guess
then
that's
yes.
true. Yeah.
Then yes, it was probably more expensive than Factions. But yeah, no, there's a ton of stuff.
Or those dragon games we saw
love.
from Xbox, like those Dragon Slay games.
Oh, Scalebound.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one looked pretty cool. I think Microsoft probably has more dead games.
Yeah, but I don't think
because there
I
was
don't
a-
feel like I was in that wheelhouse when that happened. Like so, like I
No,
wouldn't like I wouldn't have been as like paying attention to it. You know, like
Yeah, I could see that, but I feel like there was like an E3. I mean, they were Ken Levine was on the PlayStation stage one year and announced like a
BioShock
exclusive
Vita, yeah.
brand new BioShock for
Vita.
Vita.
Yeah.
It never came around. We always hear about Bully 2 was in development at some point and never happened.
Did Geo Corsi announce any like third party partnership that didn't happen?
All the fucking time. I mean,
like on
not
stage,
necessarily
like
Geo,
say so,
but
yeah.
but yeah, that happened so many times where partnerships were announced. I mean, they built Steam to be compatible with PlayStation and only released 2 games for it: Portal 2 and Counter-Strike Go.
Yeah.
There were supposed to be more Steam stuff to come, but that never happened. I mean, Beyond Good and Evil 2, that's vaporware. So there's a ton of stuff that never came.
Yeah, because like I mean, just like the Silent Hills game, the project collaboration between Hideo Kojima and
PT, yeah.
Guillermo, yeah. So and then
There was that
Wolf Among Us 2,
which apparently still in works by whoever is Telltale
and then
now.
the Star Wars Eclipse game is that
Guillermo del Toro also had a game he was working on with THQ that had a trailer and looked cool as fuck, and then THQ went out of business like 6 months later. That would have been super good. I think there was like a Fear 3 game in development at one point from Monolith that got canceled. I feel like the canceled game stuff did happen a lot in the PS2, PS3 era because games were significantly less expensive. So we could probably go all day on finding stuff that was canceled, especially if we like go through OD3s and like video game events. But
that sounds like
nowadays,
a lot of homework, so.
Yeah, nowadays things are just too expensive, so stuff doesn't get greenlit unless it's like a sure thing.
So like real quick, I came across something on Watch Mojo, top 20 canceled video games. I'm just gonna go real quick. Gotham by Gaslight, Prey 2, Sadness, Fez 2, 8 Days, Donkey Kong Racing, Sonic Extreme, Warcraft Adventures, Lord of the Clans, Star Wars Battlefront 3, StarCraft,
1313.
StarCraft Ghost, Alan Wake 2, but I guess like they actually come. Dungeon Keeper 3, Fallout Online, Fallout 76, I would argue.
Yeah.
Mega Man Legends 3, GoldenEye 007, the Xbox Live remake. Scalebound is number 4. Star Wars 1313.
That was the talk of the town.
Yeah, the acquisition of Lucasfilm by Disney in 2012, resulted in a lot of great things, but sadly also brought the cancellation of this highly anticipated title, a dark, gritty, third-person action shooter reminiscent of the Uncharted series. The game would have had players assume control of legendary bounty hunter Boba Fett and explore stuff. Settlers in level 1313. Silent Hills, and then Half-Life 2, Episode 3.
Yeah. Just going off that, I want to say that their Ninja Theory did pitch Heavenly Sword 2, and that premise sounded really cool. That I would consider vaporware because it seemed like that could have actually happened. There's a ton of cool ideas that were canceled that will never see a light of day, and prototypes do sneak out from these games every once in a while, and when it does, it's kind of amazing to see, even if it's like a prototype stage and it's like
or even
no
just
backgrounds.
Inspirational art, sketches and stuff. So it's always pretty cool.
Yeah. So. Oh man, the Blur game. I think there's only one Blur, but I think they were working on a second one. Fuck. So now I'm depressed. Thanks, Palmer. I'm gonna go play some PS3
Tony Hawk,
games.
Game Boy Color.
Yeah, I got Advance and Color. I did not realize they released it on both platforms. And I got the box. You know how fucking great it is to have a Game Boy box?
Jeez.
It's not that great, but
All right. So that's our show for this week. You can follow us on social media at Digital Days Pod, at the First MJC, at Good Dave Hunt. Facebook group and Discord server are linked in the show notes. Check those out. Patreon is there as well in the show notes. Patreon.com/Digital Days Gaming. Other than that, I hope everyone has a great week and keep moving forward.
don't be a dick. See ya.
I think Josh leaves his Twitch on. Like I think he just has like a tab open.
Oh yeah.
Alrighty, those of you that are hanging out in chat, I don't know if you guys got anything for us. Yeah, doesn't look like it. Okay, appreciate those who have been hanging out, and we will talk to you all next week.